She never should have walked into his office. She never should have looked into his eyes. Elena came to him with nothing but desperation in her trembling hands, begging for her dying father's life. She needed money. She needed hope. Instead, she found Ronald Knight, a man feared by the world, a billionaire whose name made empires shake. Mercy was poison to him. Love, a word that never existed in his heart. And yet he offered her one thing, not kindness, not sympathy. A deal. Marry me. Sign your soul to me. In return, I'll save your father. That day, Elena signed away her freedom. She stepped into his mansion, not as a wife, but as a prisoner in a golden cage, a cage she could never escape. What she didn't know was why he chose her. Why would a ruthless man with everything in his grasp tie himself to a poor, helpless girl? The answer would destroy her. Subscribe to my channel because everyone means a lot to me. The rain tapped softly against the tall glass windows, a haunting rhythm that matched the storm inside Elena's heart. She stood in the center of the grand bedroom, dressed in the heavy bridal gown that shimmered under the dim golden lights. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirror. Beautiful, yes, but with eyes clouded by fear. Her lips trembled as she pressed them together, trying to hold back the wave of panic rising in her chest. This was not how she had ever imagined her wedding night. The room itself was magnificent crystal chandeliers, velvet curtains, expensive paintings on the walls. Every corner screamed of wealth and power. The thick carpet under her feet was softer than any fabric she had ever touched. But none of it brought her comfort. Because she knew deep down, she didn't belong here. Her gaze drifted to the side table. A silver frame sat there, holding a picture of him, the man she had married only hours ago. Ronald Knight, the billionaire everyone in the city whispered about. Cold, arrogant, dangerous. And now her husband. Her chest tightened. Why me? She thought. Why would a man like him marry a poor girl like me? Only weeks ago, she had walked into his company for a job interview. She had needed money desperately. Her father's cancer treatments were far beyond what she could afford. The hospital bills piled up while the government ignored her pleas for help. She had felt like she was drowning. Then, in his office, she had met him. He had studied her with unreadable eyes, as if she were some puzzle he already knew the answer to. And then came his shocking offer. Marry me in a contract marriage, and I'll take care of your father's treatment. At first she had thought it was a cruel joke, but Ronald Knight never joked. Now here she was, in his house, in his world, wearing the dress of his bride. The door clicked. Elena froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs as the tall figure of Ronald entered the room. He looked breathtaking in his black suit, the kind of man whose presence swallowed every inch of air around him. His dark eyes scanned her slowly, with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You're nervous," he said, his deep voice smooth, laced with mockery. She swallowed hard, stepping back as he moved closer. "Please don't." Her voice was shaky, fragile, yet firm enough to stop him in his tracks. One corner of his mouth lifted in a smirk. "Don't?" "This is just a contract marriage," Elena whispered, her hands clutching the folds of her gown. "You don't have the right to touch me." His smirk deepened, cutting like a knife. "Don't forget, Elena, I've already bought you. Your life, your future, even your tears." Her eyes welled instantly, hot tears burning her lashes. "I never wanted this," she cried softly. "I came to your office just to get a job. I only wanted money to treat my father. You forced me into this arrangement." Ronald's gaze flickered for a brief second, but his face remained unreadable. "Forced?" he echoed, tilting his head. "You could have walked away." "You knew I couldn't," she whispered bitterly. "You knew I was desperate. My father is dying. Do you think I would have said yes otherwise?" Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. He stood tall, unreadable, his eyes like dark oceans hiding secrets she couldn't reach. For a moment, she thought he might actually explain, might reveal why a billionaire of his stature had chosen her. but he only chuckled a low, dangerous sound that sent a shiver down her spine. "One day, you'll understand," he said finally. Then, without another glance, he turned and walked out of the room, leaving her alone with her tears. Elena sank onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. The sobs came quietly, but they broke her apart. Why me? What game is he playing with my life? The night dragged on in misery. By dawn, she had finally drifted into a restless sleep. But she woke suddenly to the sound of his voice. "Elena." Ronald's tone was sharp, commanding. He stood at the edge of her bed, his expression unreadable. "Get up, get ready, we're going downstairs." She blinked at him, disoriented. "What? Where?" "Downstairs," he repeated firmly. "Now." Nervous, she scrambled out of bed and quickly dressed. Her hands shook as she brushed her hair, her heart racing at the thought of what awaited her. Following him down the grand staircase, she felt as if she were walking into another trap. The living room was vast, decorated with antiques and family portraits. On a velvet armchair sat an elderly woman, elegant and regal despite her age. Her sharp eyes softened slightly when they landed on Elena. Ronald placed a hand on Elena's back, gentle, yet possessive, and spoke. "Grandmother, meet Elena, my wife." Elena's breath caught. Grandmother. The old woman's eyes studied her carefully, as though measuring her worth. Then she gave a small nod, though her expression revealed nothing of what she truly thought. Ronald didn't linger. "I have work," he said abruptly. Without another word, he walked out, leaving Elena standing awkwardly beside his grandmother, her thoughts spinning. As silence filled the grand hall, Elena's heart sank. She hadn't even had the chance to ask him, "When will he pay for my father's treatment? When will this nightmare end?" Instead, she was trapped in his world, waiting for answers that Ronald Knight had no intention of giving. The morning sun was pale, but Elena's heart was darker than night. She had finally gathered the courage to visit her father at the hospital. All night, she had cried silently, torn between fear of her husband and love for her sick father. The car dropped her outside the hospital gates. She hurried inside, clutching her small purse, her heart racing. But the moment she stepped into the reception area, a strange feeling crept over her. Something was wrong. The hospital looked different. New faces, different staff. Even the receptionist didn't recognize her. "My father," Elena asked, her voice shaky. "Room 308. He was admitted here." The woman at the desk looked confused. "I'm sorry, miss. We don't have any patient by that name." Elena froze. No, that's impossible. I was here 2 weeks ago. He was here." The staff checked again. Nothing. No record. No trace. Her legs trembled. Her throat tightened. Where is he? Where did they take him? Panic swirled through her chest as tears filled her eyes. She rushed outside, desperate. There was only one person who could answer her. Ronald. Minutes later, she stood in front of his towering office building. Fear told her not to go inside, but her heart screamed louder. She pushed through the glass doors and rode the elevator up, ignoring the stares of the staff. When she burst into his office, Ronald looked up slowly from behind his desk. His cold eyes narrowed. His jaw tightened. "Elena," he said sharply, his voice like ice. "Didn't I tell you never to walk into my office without permission?" She swallowed hard, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Where is my father, Ronald? Tell me. He's gone from the hospital. No one knows where he is. What have you done?" He leaned back in his chair, one hand resting casually on the armrest. "Your father's whereabouts are not your concern right now." Her heart broke. "Not my concern? He is my father." Her voice cracked, raw with pain. Ronald's eyes darkened. "Don't raise your voice here." He tilted his chin toward the other men in the office, 3 sharp-suited businessmen who were watching the scene with growing interest. Their gazes crawled over Elena, curious, judging, like she was entertainment. Her chest tightened with shame. With trembling hands, she wiped her tears and stepped back. "I shouldn't have come." She turned and fled from the room, her heels clicking against the marble floor. But before she could leave the building, a strong hand clamped around her arm. "Lena," Ronald's voice growled behind her. He had followed her out. His grip on her wrist was firm, unyielding. "Let go," she whispered, struggling. His eyes blazed down at her. "Never come into my office uninvited again. Do you understand?" Her throat burned as tears spilled freely now. "You're humiliating me, just because I'm poor. Because I don't belong to your world." For a heartbeat, something flickered in his eyes, regret, maybe. But then it was gone. He released her arm abruptly and turned back toward the elevators. Elena stood frozen, her heart bleeding. He doesn't care. He will never care. That evening, she walked back toward the mansion. Her head hung low, her chest heavy with fear and sorrow. Her mind wouldn't stop repeating his cruel words. On the pathway leading to the gates, she collided with someone. A young man, tall, cheerful, with an easy smile. His books fell to the ground as he laughed softly. "Whoa," he said, looking at her closely. "You must be my brother's new wife." Elena froze. "Brother?" "Yes," the young man chuckled. "Ronald, you married him, right? I've been away at university, but I heard the news. And wow." His eyes ran over her face in amazement. This time he chose a stunning girl. Her blood turned cold. He was Smith, younger, carefree. His words stabbed her heart. Why did Ronald marry me? What does he really want from me? Elena forced a weak smile and hurried past, but her mind spun like a storm. She remembered Ronald's icy words. She remembered the vanished hospital records. What if? What if he's not who he seems? She thought in terror. What if he's involved in something illegal, smuggling, trafficking, even women? Her body shivered. Fear gripped her tighter than ever. That night, she locked herself inside her room. The shadows of the mansion pressed down on her like a cage. Every creak of the floor, every whisper of the wind outside made her jump. When Ronald finally returned, the air shifted. He walked in casually, loosening his tie, his presence filling the room like fire. Elena kept her gaze fixed on the floor, refusing to look at him. He noticed instantly. Silent tonight, his voice was calm, almost amused. "Still angry about this morning?" She didn't answer. He sighed, moving toward the bathroom to change. Minutes later, he came out in a black shirt, damp hair clinging to his forehead. His eyes met hers. "Elena," he said, "you need to understand something. My office, it's a dangerous place. People come there, some good, some very bad. And the people who were there today was not some good people. They were kind of a mafia. Do you really want them to know that you're my wife? Do you want them staring at you the way they did today?" Her heart ached. "You're asking me to protect your honor, but what about mine?" He didn't reply. Tears slid down her cheeks again. "Where is my father, Ronald? Please, I need to know." He shrugged, his expression blank. "I don't know where he is." Her chest cracked open with grief. "Then divorce me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "If you won't keep your promise, let me go. I only agreed to this marriage for his sake. Without him, there's no reason left." For the first time, something like fire flashed in his eyes. His jaw clenched. He stepped closer, his voice low, dangerous. "Divorce?" His lips curved into a cold smile. "No, Elena. Once something is mine, it never leaves me. You are my wife, and you will remain my wife. I married you for a purpose, and I will see that purpose fulfilled." Her breath caught. Her body trembled. His words sliced through her hope like a blade. "A purpose? What purpose?" Elena's mind raced back to what his younger brother had said, the way he looked at her, the hospital vanishing, the secrets. Is he planning to sell me? To use me for something dark? Her blood turned cold. Her body stiffened with dread. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. That night, as Ronald turned away and switched off the lights, Elena lay awake in the darkness, her heart pounding. She was no longer only worried about her father. Now she was terrified for herself. The night was quiet inside the mansion. The silence pressed down on Elena's chest like a weight. She sat on the edge of her bed, clutching her pillow, her thoughts running wild. Her father's face haunted her. His weak smile. His trembling hands. Where is he now? She asked herself over and over. Ronald had given her no answers. Only cold words. Only walls of secrets. Her eyes burned from crying, but sleep refused to come. Suddenly the door creaked open. Elena stiffened. Her heart pounded as she looked up. It wasn't Ronald. It was his Smith, the same boy she had met near the gates earlier. His carefree smile returned as he leaned casually against the doorframe. "You look lonely," he said softly, stepping inside without hesitation. "Mind if I keep you company?" Elena blinked nervously. "I shouldn't. If your brother—" He cut her off with a laugh. "Ronald doesn't have to know. Besides, I'm not like him." Something about his easy tone loosened her guard. Maybe it was his youth. Maybe it was her loneliness. Maybe it was her desperation to have someone, anyone, listen. He pulled a chair and sat across from her. "Tell me, Elena, are you happy here?" Her chest tightened. She lowered her gaze, twisting her fingers. "Happy?" She almost laughed bitterly. "I don't even know why I'm here. I married him because I had no choice. My father needed treatment. Ronald promised me he'd help, but now even my father is gone." Her voice broke. Tears slid down her cheeks as she spoke, raw and honest. For the first time, Smith's playful smile faded. His eyes darkened, serious. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Elena," he said quietly, "you should be careful." Her heart skipped. "Careful." He nodded. "He is my brother, yes, but I fear him. I fear the things he does." Her lips parted. What things?" Smith's voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "To Ronald, women are toys. Pretty faces he can buy, keep, or throw away. He hides behind his clean businesses, companies, charities, meetings. But no one truly knows what he's doing. His deals are not always legal. They might be very dangerous. You should never believe his words." Elena's entire body went cold. Her pulse raced as her mind filled with images. Ronald smirking. Ronald gripping her wrist. Ronald speaking of her as though she were an object. Her breathing quickened. Could it be true? She clutched her chest, panic crawling through her veins. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know," he said firmly. "Don't trust him. Don't trust anything he promises." Before Elena could reply, the door burst open. The grandmother stood there, her face stern, her cane tapping against the floor. Her sharp eyes locked on Smith. "What are you doing here?" she scolded. "Why are you troubling the new bride? Go on, leave. You know what will happen if Ronald finds out." Smith gave a small shrug, almost mocking. "I was just talking." "Go," the grandmother ordered firmly. He sighed, then rose slowly from the chair. Before leaving, he gave Elena one last look, a look filled with warning. Then he slipped out silently. Elena's chest heaved. Her mind screamed with questions. The grandmother walked closer. Her tone softened, but her eyes remained cold. "Do not listen to him, child. He likes to play tricks. Focus on your place in this house. That will keep you safe." But to Elena, her words didn't feel like comfort. They felt like chains. As the grandmother left, Elena's thoughts swirled. She's protecting Ronald. She's part of this too. Her heart pounded with fear. Her mind whispered one desperate word: escape. That night, when the house grew silent, Elena began to plan. She opened the wardrobe and pulled out every box she could find. Gold, jewelry, thick bundles of cash. Things that never belonged to her but could buy her freedom. Her hands shook as she stuffed them into a small bag. Her heart raced wildly. I need to get out, before it's too late. She glanced at the window. The garden beyond looked dark, but it was freedom. She wiped her tears, grabbed the bag, and tiptoed toward the door. Her fingers had just brushed the handle when a voice echoed behind her. "Running away, Elena." Her body froze. The bag slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. Slowly, she turned. Ronald stood in the doorway. His tall frame filled the space, his eyes like shadows, sharp and burning. "No," she whispered, trembling. He stepped closer, his presence suffocating. His voice was low, dangerous. "Where were you planning to go?" Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Please let me go. I don't belong here." His gaze hardened. In one swift move, he grabbed her arm. His grip was iron, unyielding. She whimpered in pain as he dragged her down the hallway. "Ronald, stop, please." He ignored her cries, his face set in stone. At the end of the corridor, he shoved open a heavy door and pushed her inside. The room was dark, cold, empty. The door slammed shut behind her. She stumbled, clutching her arm, her chest rising and falling with frantic breaths. Ronald's voice cut through the silence, sharp and final. "You will not leave this house without my permission. Ever." Her heart shattered. She pressed her back against the wall, tears streaming down her face. "Why?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why are you doing this to me? Why did you marry me? What do you want from me?" But he didn't answer. He turned, unlocked the door from the outside, and left her there, trapped. The sound of the lock clicked like a chain around her soul. Alone in the darkness, Elena sank to the floor. Her body shook with sobs. Her heart screamed with regret. Why did I ever come here? Why did I ever accept his offer? But it was too late. She was his prisoner now. The days inside that locked room blurred into each other. Elena no longer counted the hours, only the tears she shed. The heavy velvet curtains let no sunlight inside, making the room feel like a cage carved out of darkness. Every evening the same maid slipped inside silently, placing food on the table, bowing quickly, and disappearing before Elena could utter a word. It was strange. She wasn't starved. She wasn't left to suffer without care. Every meal was rich, every necessity provided. A silent message hovered over her like a curse. Ronald Knight was keeping her alive. But why? The question tore her apart. If he hated her, why not throw her out? If he wanted her, why cage her like a bird he never touched? One night, when the mansion was cloaked in shadows and a storm brewed outside, Elena sat against the wall, clutching her knees to her chest. Rain lashed against the window. Her thoughts drifted to her father, her heart aching. Was he safe? Had Ronald truly kept his promise to help him? Or had her father been abandoned just like her? The faint click of a lock turning startled her. Her breath caught in her throat. The door creaked open slowly. A tall figure stepped in, the scent of whiskey and expensive cologne filling the air. "Ronald?" Her voice cracked. The figure stepped closer. His features emerged in the dim candlelight. It wasn't Ronald. It was Smith. Her heart lurched. "You? Why are you here?" Smith's smile was sharp, wicked, nothing like the casual friendliness he once showed her. "You looked lonely. I thought I'd keep you company." Elena stiffened, rising quickly from the bed. "This isn't right. You shouldn't be here." But Smith ignored her. He shut the door behind him with a soft thud, leaning against it as his eyes roamed over her trembling figure. "You trust too easily, Elena," he murmured, stepping forward. "Did you really think I was on your side? That I cared about your tears?" Her breath hitched. Fear wrapped around her chest like a steel chain. She backed away, but the room had no escape. "Don't," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Please, Smith, don't come near me." But he didn't stop. His hand reached out, his intent clear. Panic surged through her, tears spilling down her face as she pressed herself against the wall. "I thought you were different. I thought you were better than Ronald." Smith laughed, low and cruel. "Ronald? My dear brother may play the role of a gentleman, but he's worse than me. At least I don't pretend." His hand brushed her arm and she flinched violently. "No! Leave me!" she cried, pushing him back with all the strength her fragile body could muster. But he caught her wrist, his grip harsh. "Stop fighting! No one will hear you." Her scream tore through the room, raw, desperate. The door burst open. He was Ronald. His tall frame filled the doorway, his eyes blazing like fire. In one swift move, He yanked Smith away from her and threw him against the wall. The crack of bone-meeting stone echoed. "You filthy bastard!" Ronald's voice thundered. He slammed his fist into Smith's jaw. The younger brother staggered, blood spilling from his lip. Smith snarled, "She's mine as much as she is yours." The words hadn't finished leaving his mouth when Ronald's fist collided again, harder, sharper. "You don't get to touch what's mine." His voice was venom, his rage uncontrollable. Elena, sobbing, collapsed to the floor, her body shaking violently. Ronald dragged Smith to the door, shoving him out with brutal force. "Get out of my sight before I kill you." His last punch left Smith half-conscious, blood staining his shirt. The door slammed shut. Silence fell. Ronald stood there, chest heaving, his knuckles bruised and bleeding. He turned slowly, his gaze falling on Elena. She was crouched against the wall, her face buried in her hands, crying like her soul had been shattered. "Why? Why are you doing this to me?" she choked out, lifting her tear-streaked face toward him. "First you cage me here like a prisoner, and now your brother, your own brother, tries to." Her voice broke into sobs. "What do you people want from me?" Ronald didn't answer. His eyes darkened, but his lips remained sealed. "You're a monster," she spat through her tears. "You promised me money for my father's treatment, but I've seen nothing. You lied. You trapped me in this fake marriage. You've stolen my freedom, and now your family treats me like I'm nothing." Her voice shook with raw pain. "I hate you, Ronald Knight. I hate you." The words pierced the air, heavy and merciless. Ronald said nothing. He simply stood there, watching her with unreadable eyes. After a long, suffocating silence, he turned and walked out, closing the door softly behind him. Elena's sobs echoed in the emptiness. For hours she sat trembling, convinced Smith might return, that Ronald's silence meant betrayal. But Smith never came back. Days later, whispers traveled through the halls. Elena overheard the servants talking Ronald had thrown Smith out of the mansion. They say Smith deserved all this, he was a spoiled man. Worse, Ronald had him arrested, his name dragged into scandals, his reputation ruined. Smith was gone. Elena was free to walk through the mansion, though the gates outside remained guarded. Grandmother Eleanor often stopped her in the corridors, her voice filled with admiration. "Our Ronald has a lion's heart," she would say proudly. "He protects what is his. You're safe with him, child." Safe. The word tasted bitter. Elena felt nothing like safe. Each time she tried to leave the house, the guards blocked her way. "You cannot step outside without the master's permission," they repeated, cold and loyal. So she stayed, trapped, pacing through gilded halls, staring at endless portraits of knights, her own reflection hollow and lost. Weeks stretched into a month. The mansion was a palace, yet it was still a prison. One stormy night, when rain poured like silver knives against the windows, Elena sat in her room, staring at the shadows. Her thoughts spiraled to her father. Where was he? Alive? Dead? Did Ronald betray her after all? The questions stabbed her heart until she wept silently into her hands. The door clicked open. Her head shot up. Ronald stood there, water dripping from his coat, his hair damp from the storm. His gaze locked on her, cold yet intense. One stormy night, when rain poured like silver knives against the windows, Elena sat in her room, staring at the shadows. Her thoughts spiraled to her father. Where was he? Alive? Dead? Did Ronald betray her after all? The questions stabbed her heart until she wept silently into her hands. The door clicked open. Her head shot up. Ronald stood there, water dripping from his coat, his hair damp from the storm. His gaze locked on her, cold yet intense. Where are you taking me?" Ronald's eyes darkened. "You'll see." His words were not a request, they were an order, and though every instinct screamed to resist, Elena couldn't. She followed him out of the room. Rain slid down the car windows like silver tears. Inside, there was silence. Ronald drove without a word. Elena sat beside him, her hands clenched in her lap. She felt her heart race. He said nothing. She said nothing. Only the sound of the rain and the engine filled the space between them. The car stopped in front of a huge, shining hospital. Its walls were glass and white marble, its name written in gold letters. Elena stared, confused. "Where are we?" she whispered. Ronald did not answer. He stepped out, walked around the car, opened her door, and held out his hand. "Come," he said simply. His voice was low but firm. Elena hesitated, then took his hand. They walked inside. The halls were bright. The air smelled of medicine and clean linen. Her confusion grew with every step. Ronald stopped at a private room. He opened the door. "Go in," he said. Elena took a shaky breath and stepped inside. Her eyes widened. Her father was sitting up in the bed. He looked alive, healthy, his eyes clear, his smile warm. Machines hummed softly around him, but he did not look weak anymore. "Papa!" Elena's voice broke. She rushed forward and fell into his arms. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but these were tears of joy. He stroked her hair. "My daughter," he said softly. "Do you know what kind of man you married? He treats me like a father. Mr. Ronald is a good man. I am proud of your choice." Elena froze. She turned slowly to look back. Ronald was standing at the door, speaking quietly with the doctor. The doctor's voice carried to her. "Mr. Ronald, the amount you have spent on this old man's treatment over the last month is astonishing. Because of you, he is alive and healthy today. Even cancer has left him." Elena's hands flew to her mouth. Her tears came faster, but now they were mixed with shock. Ronald turned and walked out of the room. Elena's heart lurched. She ran after him. She found him standing in the corridor, his broad back to her. He turned slightly when she called his name. "Our contract marriage's purpose is fulfilled," he said quietly. "I promised you your father's treatment. I have done it." He paused. His eyes looked tired, almost sad. "I married you because my grandmother wanted me to marry. I showed her a wedding so she would stop insisting. People questioned me, but now the questions are gone." He looked straight into her eyes. "You're free now. I know you're not happy with me. If you want, I can divorce you." Elena's breath caught. Her heart ached. She stepped closer. "If you could do all this for me," she whispered. "How can you be a bad man?" Ronald lowered his gaze. "I kept you locked away to keep you safe. The Mafia men who saw you in my office were eagerly searching for you. But I have managed everything. They won't even find a glimpse of you ever. My enemies are dangerous. I never touched you. I only wanted to protect you and save your father." Her heart melted. All the hatred she had carried began to fade. She took another step toward him. "I don't want a divorce," she said, her voice trembling. I just want to know who you really are, Ronald." He blinked, startled. "I have no more money to give you. I can only let you go." "I don't want your money," Elena said softly. Tears streamed down her face. "I want you." Ronald's breath hitched. He looked at her, truly looked at her, as if seeing her for the first time. The mask of the billionaire slipped, and for a moment he looked human, vulnerable. He reached out, hesitated, then brushed his thumb gently across her wet cheek. "You're free to go," he murmured. "But if you stay—" "I'm staying," she whispered. The storm raged outside the tall hospital windows, but in the corridor there was only stillness. Ronald pulled her into his arms. She buried her face against his chest, feeling his heart beat hard beneath her palms. For the first time, he held her not as a possession, but as a man holds the woman he loves. And for the first time, she held him back. Their contract marriage had ended. Their real life together had just begun.